this data was acquired. How did we get all this information for this case study? I actually deployed to Charlotte. We heard about the incident, it was breaking news, and I jumped on a plane and went there. Why is that? A little bit about my background. The acronym for the Public Affairs Science and Technology Fusion Center is the PAST Fusion Center. So that's what I put on my business card.
Great.
PAST Fusion Center. And what we do is we study events like this. We deploy wherever we can get to. We acquire social media data. We call it boots on the ground. We interview all the parties involved, and then we bring back that data and we get it before social scientists and researchers, and we do some modeling with that, and we'll talk about that. Eyewitness account. So being there in Charlotte, I was able to see a lot of things. Now it's important to mention this too. I used to work for Charlotte for 29 years, so I had an insider take to a lot of things which normally I wouldn't have been privy to. What was interesting is that at times I was treated like an outsider, even though I was an insider. But because of relationships I had built and the trust that I had built in that community, left Charlotte under great auspice, decorated firefighter captain. So I retired after 29 years, so I built a lot of relationships, and that really helped me get a lot of that information. Face-to-face interviews, telephone interviews. I actually had to make some public record requests, even from some friends who I thought were my friends. I had to go and get some public record requests after serving that city for almost 30 years. So let's talk a little bit about this real quick. How this information is going to be used. So we created what we call a model, an agent-based model. And this is what, it's really important to get an understanding of what was involved here. So we had, to an extent, several folks or entities involved. You had the victim's spouse, the victim's daughter, so play a big role in this, and you'll see in just a minute. We had the news media, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, of course, city government, and then you had the residents who were affected. What you're going to see is mainly those are the entities that were really focused on early on, and they didn't consider this. So we had communication between the victim and the police department. We'll show you a video about that soon. Then we had the victim's wife communicating to the victim. The victim's wife communicating to the police department. The victim's daughter communicating to the police department. Enters social media, which wasn't taken into account. And you're going to see it had a tremendous effect on the role or the play, how this thing played out. It says the model fills out, you see all the other entities that were involved, all the other communication aspects that were involved, but they weren't necessarily considered. So I want to ask you right off the bat, all this communication, all these things involved with communication, how many opportunities were there for lack of communication, failed communication, or ineffective communication? How many opportunities were there? Infinite, just about, right? So it's important that we call these, some of these things, we call these complexities. And it's really important when you are dealing with a situation, especially an officer-involved shooting or our new norm, which is civil unrest. Get used to it because it's becoming the new norm. You have to consider the complexities when you're planning or you're putting together a strategy to communicate.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you say we're not considered by whom, what perspective are we looking at this from?
We're going to be looking at this as the perspective from the city of Charlotte and the police department, and we're getting into that in just a second. Just want to lay a little groundwork for you. Okay. So with this model, And if we start considering these complexities and we plan these things, we can create sort of a forecast. We call it analytical forecasting. So if we can take data from Ferguson and from Charlotte and from Baltimore, or any other type of event, it could be a flooding event, it could be hurricanes, it could be tornadoes, it could be whatever that type of event is, and we start compiling this data and looking at this data and creating models, we can start saying and forecasting and saying, if you choose to communicate like this in this situation, there's a 70% chance that people will respond like this.